Hello, welcome to our evening with Marcel Holman. I'm Ingrid Ruffin, head of the Learning Commons at the University of Tennessee Libraries. This is the third event in the UT Libraries series, Boundless, Artists in the Archives. Before I introduce this evening's featured guest, I'd like to explain our vision for the Boundless series. We created this series to raise public awareness of the cultural and research value of our special collections. Our Betsy B. Creekmore Special Collections and University Archives holds unique materials that exist nowhere else in the world, such as letters, diaries, photographs, scrapbooks, and personal memorabilia. These are the primary sources that inform historical research and make the past come alive. These items have been donated to our archives so that they can be preserved and shared with future generations of researchers. Our program, Boundless, Artists in the Archives, demonstrates that the unique materials in our special collections not only inform scholarship, but can also inspire creative work. For this program, we invite musicians and other artists to explore the collections in our archives and translate their insights into the language of their craft. When we invited musician Marcel Holman to participate in our program, he chose to delve into the soldiers' memoirs and wartime correspondence preserved in our archives. Marcel is himself a veteran of the Vietnam War, and his service to our country included using his musical talents to entertain the troops. During the Vietnam War, he served in the 11th Bravo Army Infantry and performed for troops who were deployed to fire stations on the front lines. This evening is special to me because I once taught Marcel in a course here at the University of Tennessee. And I too am a veteran. I'm a former member of the U.S. Air Force and a veteran of the war in Iraq. I'd like to thank UT's Veterans Resource Center for their support of this event, and I'd like to extend a personal welcome to any veterans or military family members in our audience tonight. I invite you to speak to staff in our special collections about the possibility of donating mementos of your own service to the UT Libraries to make them permanently available for study and research for years to come. This evening, you will hear the debut performance of Marcel's original compositions inspired by the soldier's experience. Marcel describes the musical genre of his new works as jazz-infused rhythm and blues. Marcel is modest about his talent, but he is an accomplished saxophonist and flutist, and he is fluent in many musical genres: rhythm and blues, jazz, soul, rock and roll, and pop, just to name a few. Since the late 60s, he has performed and recorded with dozens of legendary artists, including B.J. Thomas, Peaches and Herb, Big Ben E. King, the Bar-Kays, the Temptations, the Four Tops, the Platters, Martha and the Vandells, Chuck Berry, Lou Rawls, and Nancy Wilson. Yet he's not the least bit self-satisfied for having been in demand by R&B greats and rock and roll legends. And he continues to perform regularly at Knoxville venues. Marcel is a composer and arranger. For instance, he wrote original music and arranged W.C. Handy's works for the musical Down on Bill, which opened in Memphis in 1977 before moving to New York. One interesting footnote to his musical career is that Marcel believes his band played at the very first integrated prom at Little Rock Central High School in the 1960s. Marcel retired from a 30-year career in the U.S. Postal Service in 2008. He is now pursuing a master's degree in cellular and molecular nutrition at UT. For his thesis, he is researching the role of vitamin A and its impact on human health, including diabetes and metabolic syndrome disorders. Marcel is a true Renaissance man. In the 2005 Senior Olympics, he clocked up several wins in regional and statewide sprinting events. We are thrilled to have Marcel as our featured guest. To set the mood for tonight's main event, we'll begin the evening with a song, not by Marcel Holman, but a song composed by his aunt, legend Clara Anderson, and recorded by her group, the Harps of Melody, during the Vietnam era. Here is Lord Bless the Weary Soldier in Vietnam.
Lord bless the weary soldier in Vietnam.
In Vietnam, Lord bless the weary soldiers in Vietnam, though they are in foreign land. Lord, take them in your command. Bring the soldiers home, safely home from Vietnam,
They are firing gun, exploding bomb, day and night.
Lord, day and night, they are firing gun, exploding bomb, day and night, day and night. Let the leaders far and near, torn from war and bow in prayer, bring our boys home from over there. Lord, from Vietnam,
They left mother, wives, and children here at home.
Lord, here at home. They left mothers, wives, and children here at home, here at home. Even though they are far away, but I know you hear us pray. Let the soldiers come home, safely home, Lord, from Vietnam, though they are in foreign land. Lord, take them in your command. Bring the soldiers home, safely home, Lord, from Vietnam,
And now I'd like to introduce Marcel Holman.
Thank you.
Hi, Marcel. So if you could you tell us the significance of opening your event tonight with this particular song?
Sure. Clara, my aunt, whose group, the Harps of Melody, recorded that particular song during the Vietnam War, was a great inspiration for me in my early years in music. And she had given me, actually, she gave me, she had me promise her that I would help to keep that music alive and keep the memory of the style that she and her group performed going forward. And she actually got the style from my grandfather, Joe Dyson, who was her, she was her sister was his wife. So Joe Dyson was called Professor Dyson in rural Mississippi, and he did music as a circuit musician, and so that's one of the main reasons that I thought that it would be appropriate to use her music.
Yeah, and in a sense, it also honors many of your family members, because you, like a lot of other veterans, have a long family heritage of serving in the Vietnam. I mean, not in Vietnam, but in the United States military.
Yes.
Okay, so next up is going to be the first of your original compositions, and the title of that song is All I Have to Give.
When things go wrong and you're feeling blue, just call my name and I will see you through. My smile is only a thought away, and I'll be there to make your day. I'm glad, so glad that I am with you here. Please let this minute last forever, dear. It's true, the simple life is what I live. My love is all I have to give. Several times we'll sing my love. This must be heaven, spring sent from above. These stars are here for you, my dear. Please say you'll never go away. I'm glad that I am here with you. Let the minute last forever, dear. It's true, the simple life is what I live. My love is all I have to give. My love is all I have, all I have, all I have to give. My love is all my love is all I love you, baby. Don't go away. All I have to give. Stay with me, stay with me, stay with me, stay with me forever.
Welcome back, Marcel. Before I ask you a quick question and I ask you to kind of talk a little bit about your process of writing All I Have to Give, I'd like to let the audience know that there will be a Q&A session right after this next song. So, Marcel, can you tell us a little about your process in writing and composing All I Have to Give, and then maybe even give a little brief introduction into your next song, Never Let It Go?
Absolutely. So while I was browsing the archives here, there was a few letters that struck me that were really sad, but they were also very poignant. One soldier from the Vietnam era, Danny Arthur Carr, who was in Sevierville, Tennessee. He was raised in Sevierville, Tennessee, just up the road from Knoxville, and his letters and correspondence were very numerous to his high school sweetheart, and it was the letters of Danny Carr that really helped inspire All I Have to Give, because he was writing his sweetheart probably a letter every 3 to 4 days for his tour, and on June 30th of the year of his tour, that was the last letter that he wrote, and he was telling her that he was hoping that he could like spend time with them, and they do all the things that they wanted to do together, eating ice cream at the ice cream park. It was really, really touching. So that last letter was written on June 30th. No, I'm sorry. He was born June 30th. So that was his birthday. And July 2nd was the day of his last letter. And sadly, on July 3rd, he lost his life in combat. And that was a day before Independence Day. So all those elements together was really very moving. So even though he wanted to return and reunite with sweetheart, but they never had the opportunity for that. So, that was the major inspiration for All I Have to Give. And I thought I would write another composition that would not necessarily be as melancholy as that. So I wanted to write something that gave a ray of hope, even though the situation was dire and you were in combat situations or in different, and that goes for just the human element in general. We need hope. So this next song was Never Let Go of Hope. So the title of this is Never Gonna Let It Go. So hope is the main theme in this particular song. And it's talking about the hope of humanity. Even though things may be dark, then there's always look for the ray of sunshine or the sunrise or the hope to come.
Thank you.
Never going to let it go. No, I'm never gonna let it go. Never going to let it go. No, I'm never. Don't stop fighting till you're riding. And that melody you sing, you can delight in. Please listen to it. Don't try to shoo it. If you listen to it right, you'll hear the truth. This melody I'm singing, When the music starts to bring it, you're never gonna let it go. It's the rhythm that you feel is the one you can't conceal. Gonna let it flow, all I know, it's got to be for real. Gonna let it grow within my soul, I'm never gonna let it go. Never going to let it go. No, I'm never gonna let it go. Never going to let it go. No, I'm never. Don't fight that feeling, rocking and reeling. Move your feet, stay with the beat. You know you're dealing. Please listen to it. Don't try to boo it. Listen to your heart and soul, you'll hear the new air. This melody I'm singing, I've got to let it flow. When the music starts to bring it, you're never gonna let it go. This rhythm that you feel is the one you can't conceal. Gonna let it go with all my soul, I'm never gonna let it go. Gonna let it roll within my soul, I'm never gonna let it go. Going to let it go. No, I'm never gonna let it go. Never going to let it go. No, I'm never gonna fight that feeling, rockin' and relax. Move your feet, stay with the beat. You know you're daily. Please listen to it. Don't try to boo it. Listen to your heart and soul, you'll hear the new air. This melody I'm singing, I've got to let it flow. When the music starts to bring it, you're never gonna let it go. The rhythm that you feel is the one you can't conceal. Gonna let it flow for all I know, it's got to be for real. Gonna let it roll within my soul, never gonna let it go.
Hi, Marcel. And so to our audience, I'd like to let you know that the Q&A session will now begin. Chris Derman will take over and have a conversation with you, Marcel, and also take questions from the audience.
Thank you, Ingrid. I'm Chris Derman. I'm one of the music librarians here at University of Tennessee Libraries. Marcel, to my ear, it sounded like you brought a whole lot of Memphis with you to Knoxville for that one.
Yes, indeed.
You know, you've told me a lot, and I'm going to steal your line here, and I already warned you I was going to. Marcel told me a long time ago that somebody called him once that he was the musical Forrest Gump because he'd just been everywhere and run into all these famous people, and he is, you know, and you can't tell it from talking to him, you know. You know, he's just so nice and down to earth, and you wouldn't think of the people he's met and played with. Marcel, tell us a little bit, you know, I told you I was going to bring up the Barkays, and I want to, but let's talk just a tiny bit about the Teen Town Singers first.
WDIA and the Teen Town Singers. Was that? I think that was pretty much your first really professional kind of level gig, wasn't it?
Well, that was a school. It was a school effort, but the Teen Town Singers are a group of Memphis students that were pretty much chosen from all the high schools in Memphis to just sing on a radio show on WDIA radio on Saturday morning. And Carla Thomas, as a matter of fact, was one of the Teen Town Singers when she was in high school. So we sang. We had about a 45-minute show that we did with A.C. Muha Williams was the director, and Catherine Rivers Johnson was the pianist, and she happened to be my homeroom teacher also in high school at Booker T. Washington. So the Teen Town Singers, several members of our band in Memphis were actually members in the Teen Town Singers.
And that's the Wildcats, isn't it? That was your group at the time?
Yes, that's well the Wildcats, yes. Or originally the Falcons.
Yeah, Falcons.
The Wildcats, yes.
And then Live Expo is the band morphed into that after you came back from Vietnam, as I recall.
Correct, yes.
As I think one of the first things you told me when we absolutely first started talking was that your band, the Wildcats, was kind of the sister band to the Barkays. Did I sum that up halfway right?
I would say, yeah, that they were probably a lot more advanced than we were. So I wouldn't put us on the same.
Okay. The little sister band.
Let's just say we were apprentice to the Barkays. They were a bit more advanced. Yes.
Now, a lot of people will know Marquet's songs. Most of their stuff was instrumental, I believe, wasn't it? The hits that they had. To start, the very first record they did was instrumental, but yeah, they had a vocalist, and they were a vocal group. Pretty soon thereafter, the first.
Larry Dodson was the main vocalist, so they were actually a vocal group also.
Excellent. Now, a lot of people know them, unfortunately, for their tragedy, and I think that's one of the. And I don't mean to bring us into a sad spot here, but I think it is important to note that they're the band that was in the plane crash with Otis Redding, many of them, and so they were close friends of yours, and you just lost them all in a one fell swoop there.
Yes, that was really a sad day when that happened, and yeah, it was just everybody was mesmerized and just really saddened by the plane crash and the loss of our friends and the great entertainer Otis Redding. It's,
we could just go through a list of the people that you've met and or seen or interacted with, from that era in Memphis. It's just remarkable, I think, to talk to you, and I hope that people get the opportunity to do that at some point, as they see you play around town, as they see you out and about here. Of course, if anybody has any questions they want to ask us now, I'd certainly be happy to read those out and entertain them. Okay, here's one. I'd love to hear a little bit about your band, Marcel. Do you play with them regularly? How did you all come together? I guess she's talking about the band, of course, that you recorded with.
Oh, the recording band. So actually, this band, the recording band, is vocalist Janine Fuller. This is her band. I play with her band. She's one of the different people in Knoxville that I play with from time to time. So the Janine Fuller band is with Sam Adams on the keyboard, Matt Nelson on bass, and Kevin Kraft on drums. Is basically her band, and they graciously agreed to interpret these songs. So they were very they were fantastic with the interpretation, and that's the band. And Karen Cartel played the violin in the session, and also Joe Jordan played the flugelhorn on All I Have to Give, and the trumpet on Never Gonna Let It Go. So it's a hybrid of Janine Fuller Band plus a couple of other instrumentalists in the mix. Yes.
I think something that they'd be interested in hearing, the thing you told me, Marcel, is that you didn't give them the music too far in advance. Can you tell them what you told me about that?
Yeah, I didn't give them the music at all, because they, you have a tendency to get used to something if you work on it, and I wanted it to have a sort of a Memphis sound edge. So if you're familiar with Stax recording, a lot of the recordings were done just spontaneously. They weren't rehearsed for days or weeks. They were just, all the studio musicians came together, and it was a synthesis that was happening as they were recording. So I don't know if you noticed, we all had music, but they hadn't actually seen that music any time in advance. So it was a little bit of an edge with how the music was recorded.
Well, there had been some real pure terror if you had done that to me. It wouldn't be an edge, it'd have been terror. I love that they were able to do such a great job with that with so little, and I thought that was real interesting. You wanted that edge, and I think those that, for instance, can compare the sound of sax with Motown, you can hear the edge, I think, in the Stax recordings. You don't necessarily hear in the Motown recordings. They sound more pristine. More slicker, I guess. Is that how you hear it too?
Right. So there's a particular rawness about the Memphis sound, and those musicians were playing a lot like just off the cuff, not necessarily a lot of new music that they had rehearsed, but just as the grooves were developed, they actually contributed their musical expertise to the project. Everybody involved did that. So that was the way I learned to record. So I wanted to incorporate that in these recordings.
So we have another question here. This is a good one. How do you get from a music career like this to studying cellular and molecular biology? I've wondered that too.
Well, originally, when I first started college, biology was my original major, and then I made a right turn into the music building, and I kind of just went from biology to music. And then I decided the biology part never really left me. So science and biology, chemistry, physics, all of that always fascinated me. So I stayed in touch with it. And after I completed my postal service career, I decided I needed to contribute something to humanity and the sciences, because that was my original plan, was to find some cures for catastrophic diseases like cancers.
I love that, Marcel. That's the thing that I've found with Marcel is I can't ask him too much about his what he's doing in school because I don't understand it very quickly. He loses me quick. I think it's interesting. Of course, you played music all through your time in the Postal Service, and I think you had a 30-year career in the Postal Service, didn't you, Marcel?
Pretty close to 30 years, 28 years.
That's close enough. That's close enough. I think you might have been some folks in town here's a post or mailman for a while, weren't you? What neighborhoods did you work in, Marcel?
Well, I was a carrier technician in Knoxville, and so I had several routes. So I had 5 different routes, and they were in different areas: Western Heights, Burlington, Mechanicsville, and several other places in the Knoxville community. Also, I did mail in areas like Farragut, the different suburban areas before I was the technician. So.
Well, I love that. So if people recognize you and they go, "Where do I know him from?" You could have delivered their mail at one point. Of course, they could have seen you play all over town too, because you've done a tremendous amount of playing since you've been here.
Yeah, that is true. Yes.
I see another question has come in here. The songs are so amazing. Are the letters that inspired Marcel's songs available in the library's digital collection? And I guess that one may be for me. I've asked about that. I don't believe they've been digitized yet, but we are going to certainly talk about that, and we may be able to get some of those up. But I don't think they've been yet, to the best of my knowledge. And here's another. Have you ever used letters or historical artifacts to inspire your songwriting before? How did this project differ from your normal writing process? Good question.
Well, it didn't differ very much because normally I listen to things around me and then I formulate compositions according to like my environment, whatever I'm hearing or seeing or maybe involved in. So this was different in a sense that I did have some direction as far as I had certain things that I wanted to have emotionally in the composition. For example, the lyrics to "All I Have to Give." If you read the letters of Danny Carr, you could see that it was a yearning for like being with one he loved and giving all he had, So also inspirationally for this project, as I was going through the archives, I did the Wilson family archives, Wilson Wade family archives, where I paid attention to some of those letters and I read, and it turns out that on the Wade side of that family, my music theory professor at the University of Memphis State at the time, was my major professor, and that was his family archives, and his brother Leroy Wade was a lieutenant colonel in the Air Force, I think. So he also played the organ at my wedding. So Rosalind and my wedding. So that was inspirational to know that I knew his family was from East Tennessee, but to actually have a document that showed, his presence here was pretty humbling and appreciated.
Yeah. And Lord bless the weary soldier in Vietnam, Marcel. The one thing that I don't know that we mentioned, but all those, I think maybe not every single picture, but just about every single picture of the people that you saw in uniform, those were your family members, weren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. Every picture is a family member. Yes.
That's amazing. Because how much one family has donated, given in lives. Thankfully nobody I know none of them were killed in action, but they certainly gave time and the possibility of getting killed in action, and that's a tremendous amount of people from one family.
Yes.
Let's see, here's another question. As a veteran, did you read anything in the soldiers' letters from other wars or other times that surprised you?
I read some of the World War II veterans' letters, and it wasn't so much a surprise, but it was that the hardship that they endured was really what I gleaned from their letters. It was really difficult, and they did a lot of tremendous brave work for their country and loss of life, and they did so much for freedom for America that it really struck me very seriously. And some of the letters as well as the photographs. So there's photographs in the archives too that also shaped how I looked at the music or how I approached it.
I think one of the here's a good question. What artist would you like to work with in the near future?
Well, there's a great amount of that I could name, but one artist I would love to work with would be, and it wouldn't have to necessarily. I could just be a part of the team that anybody that was recording music with Quincy Jones. I would love to work with one of his productions, and the artist could be any artist that's out now, but just to kind of work with Quincy would probably be one of the major things that I would like to do, just to see his process, and I'm familiar with his work as a record producer as well as a composer, musician. So that would be one artist that I would love to work with.
I think it's interesting that, of course, Marcel is a composer and an arranger, and I think he very much views himself as that. And one of the things I wrote that he was a songwriter, and he corrected me very appropriately so, and I appreciated you for doing that. Yeah. One of the most fascinating, and I'm interrupting you there. What were you going to say, Marcel?
I was going to say, yeah, I wrote the lyrics to those, but I'm not writing lyrics every day, so
I see the difference. You're not you.
Yeah, I prefer to stick to the music, the harmonies and melodies.
But I found it a conversation that I've gone back to in my mind many times, is that Marcel taught me to look at. Of course, I'm very interested in popular music. And to look at it not in terms of the artist, but look at it in terms of the arranger and the studios that they came out of. So he talked to me about that in relationship to Philadelphia sound versus Motown sound versus Stax sound. Can you say just a tiny bit about that, Marcel?
Yes. So the differences in regions actually dictate some of how things are recorded and how they're actually just viewed as music. For example, I got a chance to work a little bit at Muscle Shoals. So the Muscle Shoals Memphis connection is pretty big with Rick Hall's famed studio in Muscle Shoals. Rick at one time had a studio in Memphis. Had a famed studio in Memphis, and that was I got my first recording date at one of the writers that for Rick's studio, George Jackson. George and Dan Greer wrote this, had this session, and I played alto sax, and Carl Hampton played tenor sax on that session. That was our first professional original recording session. So yeah, those two areas are similar, but when you travel north, I think you get the Motown sound. Holland Dozier, Holland, they did a lot with like a symphonic sound. So they had a group of musicians that had more of a symphonic basic background, and so like a lot of the songs you hear early in Motown with Berry Gordy would be, like for example, Tears of a Clown has the bassoon, has an orchestral kind of a feel, and then the Philadelphia sound, if you headed east, you on the coast, you had kind of an offshoot of what the R&B Memphis sound was, except it was infused with more of a jazz quality because of New York, Philadelphia, New Jersey area had a heavy jazz influence, and so you had a lot more jazz elements in some of that music.
I know that you actually arranged 2 albums for the Barkays. When you were doing that, were you thinking that you were going to arrange them in a sound more akin to Memphis to keep them close to home, or were you branching out?
Well, actually, when I did the Barkays arrangement, well, the first album was their first. They had just signed to Polydor Polygram label, and they wanted kind of a new sound. They had a new recording contract, and so Mary Nichols, who was one of my instructors, and she was at the University of Memphis at the time, and I had just finished my degree there, and she talked about the Barkays having this new contract, and she kind of connected us to say, like, why don't you talk with James Alexander, who bass player who was actually on the commercial flight and survived the Barkays band, and he and Alan Jones, their producer, gave me a directive. They said, the biggest thing going these days is, Earth, Wind, and Fire. They're like just eating up the airways with their hits. They said, so if you can write something, arrange something that's gonna be in that vernacular, they're gonna be in that vein, like Earth, Wind, and Fire, high energy, heavy horns, and really great rhythm section, bed. Do that for us, and we'll. So that was Too Hot to Stop album was kind of based on some of the energy of Earth, Wind, and Fire, and we actually we had a five. It was arranged for 5 horns, so it was 2 trumpets, trombone, and 2 saxes. So it was a major horn section for that recording.
Well, I think I saw another question up there. Up there it is. So this is from Shelley, and I'm going to give a shout out to Shelley here. Shelley O'Barr is the person that put, I think, most of the, well, yeah, she did. She came into the studio. She's the one that made the recordings of you all in the studio, and then she's put it all together. So Shelley, well done. And she also did the work on the Bless the Weary Soldier in Vietnam, which is, fabulous work too. So
that's beautiful, beautiful work.
Shelley asks, does the song strike you, or do you seek the song? Maybe a little of both?
Is this original compositions? I'm not sure.
I think you ought to take that both ways there, Marcel, is what I think. Yeah. Take it as for somebody else's song and for one, as you're thinking about writing and saying yourself.
Well, when I'm writing, composing, it sort of just sort of starts to come together as ideas sort of just come to mind. But if I'm working, for example, like with the Barcades or somebody that I'm recording specifically for, I usually just take their cue. I'll listen to where they are with their music and energy, and then I just kind of embellish that and try to maybe highlight it or promote that particular aspect of their sound. But it kind of works. But if I'm recording, if I'm working on material just on my own, it's more of a process where it could just come to me in a few days, or it could be something that that can be written in like an hour or two. But it also could be like months. I have compositions that it might take longer to work on, but it varies quite a bit.
How does it seem to you? What does it take for a song to strike you and make you want to learn it and play that one for other people's songs?
Well, all the qualities of good music, good writing is the harmony, the way it actually moves, and also the way it strikes you emotionally or spiritually. Hopefully you can kind of get that in a recording. I think the best recordings are those that draw the listener in and also touch them spiritually or get them involved in the music itself.
Well, I think you certainly wrote some of those for us for this project, Marcel. I've had a few people tell me that that they've absolutely loved what you came up with, and I
hope people enjoy it. It was a pleasure to work on this.
Well, it's been very much a pleasure to work with you on this, Marcel. So thank you.
Thank you all.
Yes. Thank you, Marcel. Thank you, Chris, for a lovely discussion. One question that did come up in the comments was how to get access to this music. So if you go there was a link placed into the comment section of the YouTube video, but you can go to volumes.utk.edu/boundless for more details. And so you'll be able to download the music, but the videos will also be available on YouTube. And now I will like to introduce Acting Dean Holly Mercer, who will give us wrap up and closing remarks.
Thanks, Ingrid. So you came to hear Marcel Holman and those two songs, which just I was in tears and then I was up dancing. So thank you so much for sharing your talents with us. And the Boundless event is really about creative people being inspired by stories that we have in the Betsy B. Creekmore Special Collections and University Archives. I know that they were letters from soldiers, but really those letters are part of a story, and telling those stories and being inspired by them is what makes us human. So I would invite anyone who has materials in your own family archive to consider donating them to our special collections and university archives, so that we can preserve the stories of others who served in the armed forces, or who otherwise have made a difference. And with that, I want to say thank you so much again to Marcel Holman. This has been maybe not exactly the evening that we had initially planned, but it has been a wonderful time. And I hope people who would not have been able to join us in person were able to join us online. I want to thank Ingrid and Chris and Shelley also for what they've done for this event. And finally, I want to thank the wizard behind the curtain, Christine White, who made all of this work flawlessly. And so thank you all who joined us this evening. And please be sure to look at the recording, share it far and wide, and check out the Boundless section of the library's website to keep listening to Marcel's music. Right. And thank you so much. Have a good evening.